Have you ever been disrespected by your own family to the point where you just stopped caring? I'm Madison, and let me tell you something that's going to blow your mind. My family literally stole my apartment. No, I'm not exaggerating. The place that was supposed to be mine, they gave it to my niece, just temporarily. And 4 years later, I was still sleeping in my parents' room. Meanwhile, I was the one taking care of them, paying bills, handling everything, being the responsible one. And when I finally had the courage to ask for my space back, guess what happened? They called me selfish, the villain. They said I was the problem. But here's the part no one saw coming. I didn't yell, I didn't fight, I didn't cause a scene. I did something much better. Something that made every single one of them look in the mirror and realize exactly what they'd done to me. And the best part? They never saw it coming. Because the best revenge isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's simply choosing yourself when everyone expects you to keep sacrificing. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own house, used by the people who were supposed to value you, or tired of always being the one who gives in, this story is for you. Because in the end, I didn't just take back my space. I took back my entire life, and they regretted every single second they made me wait. Stay with me till the end. Because this story has twists you won't believe. And who knows? It might just inspire you to finally do what you should have done a long time ago. Ready? You know that feeling of being trapped in your own house? It's like living in a hotel room that never really becomes yours. That's exactly how I, Madison, felt for 4 whole years. My parents own a house with 3 separate apartments, you know? They live on the ground floor, my sister Claire's on the second, and the top apartment, well, that was supposed to be mine. I even picked out the wall colors, the kitchen cabinets, the bathroom tiles. I spent weeks helping with the renovation, imagining what it would be like to wake up there, with that beautiful view, finally having a place that was truly mine. But when everything was ready, my niece Emma showed up saying she needed a place for a while. And just like that, without much discussion, my future became her temporary present. The problem is that temporary turned into permanent, and no one even asked me. At first, I tried to be understanding, you know? Family is family, and Emma was going through a rough time. I thought, it's fine, it'll just be a few months, I can handle that. But months turned into a year, then 2, 3, and before I knew it, 4 full years had passed. Meanwhile, I was still stuck downstairs with my parents, with 0 privacy. I couldn't have friends over, couldn't watch a movie without bothering someone, didn't even have a corner that was truly mine. It felt like living in an endless waiting room, waiting for my turn that never came. And the worst part? Everyone acted like it was completely normal. While Emma was living comfortably upstairs, I was the one holding everything together down here. My parents are getting older now. They need help with everything. Who drives them to the doctor? Me. Who helps pay the bills when money's tight? Me. Who does the grocery shopping, organizes their meds, schedules their appointments? Always me. The original idea made perfect sense. I'd have the upstairs apartment for privacy and independence, but still be close enough to take care of them. It was ideal. But then Emma took my place, and I was left with all the responsibilities and none of the benefits. It's like working for free and still losing your paycheck. And it's not like Emma couldn't live somewhere else, you know? She's got a great job, makes good money, totally stable financially. She could easily rent an apartment nearby and still visit her grandparents anytime she wanted. But why would she, right? She already had a comfy, renovated place, probably cheaper than anything on the market. Why leave? Meanwhile, I couldn't afford to move out. All my money went toward helping my parents, covering house expenses, making sure they had everything they needed. I was literally stuck in a situation that was supposed to be temporary, watching my life slip by while everyone pretended everything was fine. The sense of unfairness kept growing inside me, but I swallowed it down because I didn't want to stir up family drama. Have you ever felt like you're being used but no one acknowledges it? It's a special kind of pain, you know? It's not something you can easily point out because people will say, "But they're your family, it's your duty to help." And of course it is. I love my parents. I've never minded taking care of them. But there's a huge difference between choosing to help and being forced to give up your life for it. I felt like I'd been appointed the family caretaker without ever applying for the job. And the worst part, when you try to talk about it, they call you selfish. Like wanting your own space after years of waiting is asking too much. Like your needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. So I stayed quiet. The good daughter, the good aunt. The one who doesn't complain and just fixes things. Until everything started to get even more complicated. Because in my family, apparently, drama is never enough. There's always another layer of chaos to spice things up. And that new layer was about to push me over the edge in a way no one saw coming. I was reaching my breaking point, even if I didn't realize it yet. Sometimes you hold on, and hold on, and hold on, until one tiny thing becomes the drop that makes it all overflow. And my final drop had a name and a last name. Let me tell you something. My family has a special talent for complicating relationships. Seriously, if there were an Olympic event for family drama, we'd take the gold without even trying. My niece Emma has this habit of getting involved with people from my life in ways that always end up hurting me. A few years ago, she started dating my best friend Jake. I was happy at first, I thought. How nice, two people I love getting along. But when that relationship ended, it was an absolute disaster. They had a terrible fight, he got hurt, and somehow, I became the villain, because I should have warned her about what he was like. Like I could see the future, right? The result? I lost one of my best friends because he couldn't stand being around her family, which included me. You'd think that after that experience, she'd be more careful, more considerate when it came to my relationships. But no. Recently she started dating Tyler, a guy who used to be my friend years ago and whom I intentionally cut out of my life. We'd had a serious falling out. One of those you can't come back from. And I decided it was best to leave him in the past. It was a hard but necessary choice for my peace of mind. And Emma knew that. I'd told her the whole story. But even knowing that, she started seeing him. Look, I can't control anyone's love life. I get that. But there's this thing called respect, you know? A basic level of consideration you expect from your own family. What really made me furious wasn't even the fact that she was dating Tyler. It was the way she brought him into my house, without saying a word. One Saturday morning, I went downstairs to the kitchen in my pajamas, hair a mess, just wanting to have my coffee in peace. And there he was, sitting at the dining table like he belonged there, completely comfortable. My heart started racing, my hands were shaking, and I could feel anger rising through my chest. It wasn't even Emma's house. It was my parents' house, my space too. And she thought she could just bring someone who'd hurt me there, without even a quick text saying, "Hey, Tyler's gonna be around." It's the kind of disrespect that makes you question whether that person actually cares about you. But wait, because this soap opera doesn't stop there. My sister Claire, Emma's mom, has an even bigger mess going on. She's having a secret affair with the father of my other best friend, Richard. And here's the kicker. Richard is married. He's got a wife, kids, a whole family who has no idea what's going on. I found out by accident a few months ago, and I was absolutely stunned. I tried to talk to Claire, told her this was going to blow up in her face, that someone was going to get seriously hurt. And you know what my family's reaction was? They called me dramatic, said I was exaggerating, that I should mind my own business, as if I were the problem for caring about the obvious fallout of this ticking time bomb. Being the only sane person in a family full of people making questionable choices is exhausting. It's like being the only sober one in a car full of drunk drivers. You're screaming that you're about to crash, but no one listens. I was losing friends because of my family's decisions. Uncomfortable in my own home, had no privacy. And on top of that, I was treated like the annoying one who complains about everything. Every time I tried to set a boundary or express how I felt, I was ignored. Or worse, accused of creating drama. The truth is, I didn't want drama at all. I just wanted a little consideration, a basic amount of respect for my feelings. And it was in the middle of all that chaos that I finally got the courage to do what I should have done years ago. I grabbed my phone, opened WhatsApp, and sent Emma a message. Nothing aggressive, nothing dramatic, Just honest. I told her I needed the apartment back, that I'd waited long enough, that she could easily find another place, and that I wasn't trying to screw her over. I gave her a fair deadline, even offered to help with the move if needed. I also asked, politely, that she at least let me know before bringing Tyler over again. I thought I was being super mature and reasonable. I thought I was finally doing something for myself after years of putting everyone else first. But oh girl, I had no idea the storm that was about to hit me. You know what I expected when I sent that message to Emma? An adult conversation. Something honest. Maybe even an apology for how disrespectful she'd been. What I definitely didn't expect was to wake up the next morning and find my own parents treating me like I'd committed some horrible crime. Emma didn't come talk to me, didn't try to understand my side, didn't try to work things out. She did what she always does when she doesn't want to face the consequences of her actions. She ran to her mom. And Claire, of course, ran straight to my parents. Before I even had the chance to explain anything, the story had already been told, retold, and twisted. Suddenly, I was the villain who wanted to throw her poor niece out on the street for no reason, the ungrateful daughter causing chaos in the family. When I went downstairs for breakfast that morning, the tension was thick. My dad barely looked at me, and my mom had that disappointed face moms get when they think you've done something awful. And then came the bombshell. My dad said very clearly that I couldn't ask Emma to move out, and that he wouldn't either. Just like that. No discussion, no hearing my side, not even asking why after 4 years. I was finally requesting what was supposed to be mine in the first place. It felt like a slap in the face. In that moment, I realized that to them, my happiness and comfort were worth less than avoiding an uncomfortable conversation with my sister and niece. I was disposable. My feelings didn't matter. I tried to explain. I reminded them of everything I'd done for them, how I'd put my life on hold to be there, how that apartment was the only thing I'd ever asked for in return for years of dedication. But it didn't make any difference. It was like talking to a wall. My dad kept repeating that the decision was final, that I needed to stop being selfish and think about the family. And I just stood there, in shock, thinking, but that's all I ever do. Think about the family. That's the problem. No one thought about me. No one cared that I had needs too, that I deserved a space of my own. I was just the convenient caregiver, expected to stay quiet and be grateful for having a roof over my head. The sense of betrayal I felt that day is hard to put into words. It wasn't just about the apartment, you know. It was about years of being treated like a second option, of having my boundaries ignored, of always being the one who gives in because you're stronger, you can handle it. I was tired of being strong. I was tired of handling it. And I was completely done being the only person in that house who seemed to have any sense of fairness. Emma had been living in a space that wasn't hers for 4 years, bringing someone into my home who'd hurt me, and yet I was the bad guy for finally asking for respect. The math didn't add up, but somehow, in my family's twisted logic, it made perfect sense to everyone but me. The next few days were awful. That awkward silence, everyone walking on eggshells, looking at me like I was a ticking time bomb. Emma avoided me completely, going straight upstairs without saying a word. My sister Claire sent a few passive-aggressive messages about preserving family harmony and how she didn't understand why I was being so difficult, and my parents kept acting like nothing had happened, as if they hadn't just made it painfully clear that my happiness meant less than everyone else's comfort. I felt invisible in my own home, like a ghost who does all the work but isn't worth seeing or hearing. It's a very particular kind of loneliness, to be surrounded by family and still feel completely alone. But you know what happens when you push someone into a corner for too long, when you take away all their choices, when you keep disrespecting them until they have nothing left to lose. They stop playing by the rules. And that's exactly what happened to me. Something inside me shifted during those days. The anger started to cool into something sharper, cold clarity, a determination I'd never felt before. If they weren't going to give me what was rightfully mine, if they weren't going to respect me willingly, then I was going to do something no one expected. I was done being the nice Madison, who swallowed everything in silence. And that decision, that change in me, was about to change everything in a way my family never saw coming. There comes a moment in life when something inside you just breaks. Not in a bad way. It's more like when you've been trying to open a locked door for years and suddenly realize you could have just gone out the window. That's exactly how I felt when I finally understood that I didn't need their permission to live my life. I'd spent so long waiting for my family to acknowledge my worth, to give me what I deserved, to say, "Madison, you were right. I'm sorry." But that validation was never going to come. And you know what? I didn't need it anymore. The only person who needed to believe in me was me. And at that moment, staring at the ceiling of the bedroom I still shared with my parents in my late 20s, I decided, enough. The first thing I did was stop. Just stop. I stopped doing all the extra things no one asked for but everyone expected. My dad needed a ride to the doctor. "Dad, call Claire. She can take you too." My mom wanted me to do the grocery shopping. "Sorry, Mom, I'm busy today. Maybe Emma can help since she lives here too." I wasn't rude. I wasn't angry. I just set boundaries that I should have set years ago. And you should have seen their faces. It was like the household appliance suddenly came to life and refused to work. They were genuinely shocked that I had my own life, my own needs, my own schedule. It's amazing how quickly people get used to using you when you let them. But the real turning point was when I started seriously looking for an apartment. It wasn't just an idea anymore, not a maybe someday. I'd wake up early before work and check listings. On my lunch breaks, I'd call realtors. At night, I'd visit places. And for the first time in 4 years, I felt the thrill of building something for myself. Every apartment I saw, even the bad ones, filled me with hope. I could feel freedom getting closer. That delicious feeling of knowing that soon I'd wake up in my own space, decorated my way, without having to answer to anyone. It was almost like a quiet revenge against myself for having waited so long. And because I'm smart, and I knew exactly what I was doing, I started posting on Instagram. Nothing obvious, nothing dramatic, just pretty pictures with captions like "New Beginnings" and "Building the Future I Deserve." I posted a cute keychain photo with the caption, "Soon, a view from a window of an apartment I'd visited." My whole family follows me online, so I knew they'd see it. And they did. My mom was the first to text me, "Madison, what are these posts?" I didn't reply. I let her sit in that curiosity. It's incredible how a little mystery can make people nervous, especially when they realize they're losing control over you. The power had shifted, and they knew it. The tension in the house became tangible. My dad tried to start small talk a few times, awkwardly fishing for clues about what I was up to. Claire showed up unannounced a couple of days later, clearly sent by my parents to find out what was going on. Even Emma came downstairs once, something she hadn't done in months, clearly uncomfortable. But I didn't give anyone an opening. I kept things polite, calm, but firm. "I'm just getting my life in order," I'd say with a smile. And it was true. After years of being the backbone that held everyone else up, I was finally focusing on myself, and that scared them, because it meant the structure they all depended on was about to collapse. Then one day, 3 weeks into my search, I found it. The perfect apartment. Not huge, not fancy, but beautiful, cozy, and most importantly, mine. It was 30 minutes away, far enough for peace, close enough for real emergencies. The rent fit my budget, the lease was fair, and the owner was a sweet older lady who loved chatting with me. When I signed the lease, got the keys, I cried. I cried out of relief, out of pride, out of everything I'd endured to get to that moment. I held those keys in my hand and thought, this is my revenge, not against them, but for me. And that was so much more powerful than any anger I could ever feel. When I finally told them I'd signed the lease on the apartment, the reaction was like one of those movie scenes where everything explodes in slow motion. My mom totally panicked. She called me crying, saying she couldn't believe I was abandoning them, asking how I could be so selfish after everything they'd done for me. And look, I get that it was a shock for her, but the word abandon made me furious. Abandon? I was moving a half hour away, not to the other side of the country. But in her mind, anything that wasn't me living downstairs, available 24/7, was abandonment. I answered calmly, said I'd still visit, that I'd still help, but that I needed my life. And then came the question I'd been waiting for. But who will take care of us? That question made me laugh. Honestly, not a happy laugh, but the kind you make when you finally see hypocrisy in its bare, ugly form. "Mom," I said, "you have another daughter. She's been living upstairs for 4 years. And there's a granddaughter who lives here too. You're not alone." The silence on the other end was deafening, because for the first time someone had said the obvious truth. Claire and Emma are family too. They have responsibilities and can help. But it was easier, more convenient, to leave everything on my shoulders while they lived their lives worry-free. My mom tried to argue that it's not the same, that I'd always been more responsible, more present, and I agreed. "That's true, Mom, because you never demanded anything from them. But now you'll have to." My dad tried a different approach. He didn't cry or make a scene. He tried to negotiate, which was even more revealing. "Madison, let's talk about this calmly. Maybe we can work out the situation with the top apartment some other way." 4 years. It took me signing a lease somewhere else for him to finally consider that maybe, just maybe, I had a point. "Dad," I said, looking straight at him. I tried to talk. I sent Emma a polite message, explained my situation, asked respectfully, and you told me I couldn't ask her to leave. So I didn't ask. I simply found another solution. I saw on his face the exact moment he realized he'd lost the negotiation. Too late. The lease was signed. The keys were in my bag. And for the first time in my life, I'd done something irreversible. But the best part, the part that gave me a satisfaction I'll never forget, was watching Emma process everything. She came down to the living room 2 days after the news hit the family, with the look of someone who finally understood the consequences. "Madison, you're really leaving?" "Yes," I replied as I folded a box. "But who will help the grandparents?" I stopped what I was doing and looked at her. "Emma, you've lived here for 4 years. Rent-free or nearly so, in the nicest apartment in the house. I think it's more than time for you to give back a little, don't you?" I watched it click for her. She would have to get up early to take my dad to the doctor. She would have to do the grocery shopping. She would have to be available. The comfortable life she'd been enjoying was about to change drastically. And it did. 2 weeks after I moved, my mom called complaining that Emma didn't know how to do things right, that she forgot medication, that she was late for appointments. "Mom, she'll learn," I said, keeping the sweet little revenge inside. I didn't know either. I had to learn. But what really surprised me was when Claire, my sister, started showing up at my parents' house more often. Suddenly she discovered that she had aging parents who needed attention. She was there every Tuesday and Thursday, helping with this and that. And I knew exactly what had happened. Without Madison there to do everything, my parents had to redistribute tasks. Claire, feeling guilty or pressured, started stepping up. The funniest part is that my parents even raised Emma's rent. Not by much, but enough to offset the loss of my monthly contribution. When Emma complained to me about it, expecting me to take her side, I just shrugged. "Emma, you have an entire apartment, renovated, in a family house. If you don't want to pay a fair price, you can always look on the open market." I watched her swallow hard. On the market, she'd pay double for something equivalent. Suddenly, that apartment she'd taken for granted showed its true value. And reality is harsh when you finally have to face it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't doing something to people. It's simply stopping protecting them from the natural consequences of their choices. And that's exactly what I was doing. Let me tell you what it's like to wake up in your own space after years of sharing a room with your parents. It's like breathing for the first time after being underwater for too long. During those first few days in my apartment, I would just stand in the living room, looking around, still processing that it was real, that it was mine. I could watch TV at whatever volume I wanted, eat cereal for breakfast at 3 p.m. if I felt like it, walk around in pajamas all day without anyone judging me. It might sound silly, but it's those small freedoms you don't even realize you've lost until you get them back. Every corner of that place was chosen by me, decorated in my taste, organized my way. It wasn't just an apartment. It was the physical manifestation of my reclaimed independence. And the peace of mind? That's priceless. No more family drama every single day. No more mediating fights between my mom and my sister. No more bumping into my niece's problematic boyfriend at breakfast. It felt like a giant weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I could finally think. Finally feel my own emotions without constantly absorbing everyone else's. I started sleeping better. My stress went down. Even my skin cleared up. Seriously, people at work started commenting that I looked different, lighter, happier. And I was. For the first time in years, I was living for myself, not for everyone else's needs. But what surprised me most was how my relationship with my parents actually improved after I created some distance. Sounds contradictory, right? But it's the absolute truth. Now when I visited them every week, it was because I wanted to be there. Not because I had to. I'd show up rested, in a good mood, with patience to hear my dad's repeated stories and my mom's commentary. And somehow they started valuing me more. They treated me like a special guest, not like a piece of furniture in the house. My mom would make the coffee I love. My dad would save newspaper articles he knew I'd want to read. It was as if my absence had finally made them notice my presence. And it wasn't some calculated revenge. It was just the natural consequence of setting healthy boundaries. Emma had her own revelation too, though not the one she was expecting. Remember Tyler, the boyfriend who used to be my ex-friend? Yeah, they lasted exactly 2.5 months after I moved out. They broke up in the messiest way possible. Fighting, blocking each other on social media, the whole toxic relationship drama. And when my mom told me about it, you know what I felt? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. Not even an, I told you so. It was like hearing about a stranger's life. I'd spent so much time and energy caught up in that unhealthy family dynamic that once I stepped out of it, I realized how irrelevant it all was. Tyler could do whatever he wanted. Emma could date whoever she wanted, and I was too busy being happy in my little corner to care. The funniest thing was realizing I had become a quiet example. 6 months after my move, 2 of my cousins, both stuck in similar situations, living with family, no privacy, being unpaid caregivers, called me for advice. "Madison, how did you find the courage?" they asked. And I answered honestly, it wasn't courage. It was exhaustion. You endure until you can't anymore, and then all that's left is to do something different. I helped them look for apartments, gave budgeting tips, shared my experience. Watching other women in my family start taking control of their own lives filled me with a kind of pride I didn't even know I could feel. My small personal revenge had turned into a movement of liberation. And about my sister Claire's explosive situation, the secret affair with the married man, well, it eventually blew up, just like I knew it would. His wife found out. There was a huge scandal, an ugly divorce, and Claire ended up heartbroken when he decided to try to fix his marriage. It was awful for everyone involved. But you know what was different this time? I wasn't in the middle of it. I wasn't absorbing the drama or being blamed for warning or not warning anyone. I was in my apartment, 30 minutes away, living my peaceful life. I offered emotional support when she needed it, but from a distance, with clear boundaries. And that's when I realized something. You can love your family and still choose not to drown with them. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saving yourself first, so that when they truly need you, you're strong enough to help. You know what the biggest lesson I learned from all this was? That being loyal to your family doesn't mean being their doormat. We grow up hearing that family is everything, that you should always be there, always help, always put others first. And while that sounds noble in theory, in practice it becomes a trap. People start confusing loyalty with self-erasure, expecting you to dim your own light just to keep their world shining. I spent years believing that being a good daughter, a good aunt, a good sister meant having no needs of my own. But the truth is, you can't take care of anyone if you're empty, exhausted, and resentful. It's like that airplane safety rule. Put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. It's not selfish. It's survival. Another thing I realized is that people only disrespect you if you let them. It sounds harsh, but it's true. For 4 years, I was disrespected over and over again. My space was invaded, my boundaries ignored, my feelings dismissed. And why? Because I allowed it. Not consciously, of course. But every time I swallowed my frustration, every time I chose not to make things worse, every time I prioritized family peace over my own mental peace, I was teaching them that it was okay to treat me that way. The day I stopped accepting it, the day I set firm boundaries, everything changed. Did people complain? Yes. Were they upset? Absolutely. But they also started respecting me in a way they never had before. There's also a bitter truth I had to accept. Not everyone will understand your journey, and that's okay. When I told some relatives I'd moved out, half of them supported me, and the other half judged me harshly. How could you leave your parents like that? What kind of daughter abandons her family? You should be more grateful. Those words hurt at first. I won't lie. But then I realized the people saying that were the ones who'd never been in my position. They were people with their own houses, their own privacy, their own freedom, judging my choices from the comfort of their independence. It's easy to preach sacrifice when you're not the one doing the sacrificing. I learned to smile, nod, and stop explaining myself. My life, my rules, my consequences. Most people think revenge is loud, dramatic, full of confrontation. But I discovered a much more powerful kind of revenge, living well. I didn't have to fight anyone, expose anyone, or make some grand speech. I just moved out, set boundaries, and started living life on my own terms. And that upset them far more than any argument could have. Because when you stop being predictable, when you stop being available to be used, people are forced to confront their own behavior. My family had to look in the mirror and see how they'd taken advantage of me for years. And that silent guilt some of them carry now? That's not my doing. It's the consequence of their own actions. But maybe the most important lesson of all was about self-love. I thought I loved myself, you know? But real self-love isn't bubble baths and surface-level self-care. It's making hard decisions that protect your long-term peace. It's saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. It's disappointing people you love because you refuse to keep disappointing yourself. It's understanding that your needs deserve just as much respect, space, and consideration as anyone else's. For years, I treated my needs as secondary to everyone else's. But deep down, I always knew I deserved better. I just had to hit rock bottom to find the courage to claim it. And look, I'm not going to romanticize it and pretend it was easy or free of bad days. There were nights I cried on the floor of my new apartment, wondering if I'd done the right thing. Moments of deep guilt when my mom called saying she missed me. Times I questioned whether I was being too harsh, too cold, too selfish. But every time those thoughts crept in, I remembered how I used to feel before. Invisible, used, trapped. And then the choice became clear. I'd rather carry the temporary guilt of setting boundaries than the lifelong resentment of never doing it. I'd rather be called selfish and sleep peacefully in my own space than be called generous while silently drowning. Because at the end of the day, I'm the only one who has to live with the consequences of my choices. And I chose peace. So, what did you think of this story? Was I the villain for finally setting boundaries? Or did I just do what I should have done years ago? The truth is, a lot of people will judge you the moment you stop being convenient. They'll call you selfish when you choose your peace of mind. They'll say you've changed, that you're different. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. You stopped accepting crumbs when you've always deserved the whole feast. And that scares the people who got used to seeing you small. Now I want you to stop for a second and think, where in your life are you accepting less than you deserve? Where are you being the Madison I used to be? Always available, always sacrificing, always swallowing disrespect just to keep the peace. Because let me tell you a secret. That peace you're keeping, it's not real peace. It's just silence while a little piece of you dies inside every day. Real peace is what you feel when you lay your head on the pillow knowing you're living according to your values, your limits, your needs. And yes, that might disappoint some people. But it's better to disappoint others than to live constantly disappointing yourself. And look, I know it's scary. I know it feels impossible to change a pattern that's been there for years. I know you're afraid of the arguments, the fallout, of losing people you love. I had all those fears too. But here's what I found out. People who truly love you will respect your boundaries. They might not like them at first. They might push back. But they'll adjust. And the ones who don't? That's how you find out who really deserves to be in your life. Because healthy relationships, even family ones, are built on mutual respect, not on exploitation disguised as devotion. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever been through something like this? Have you been the one who always gives in, always helps, always puts everyone else first? And more importantly, what are you going to do differently starting today?